Well, welcome to another episode of Exit Realty Radio. I am your host, Billy Jack, franchise owner and designated supervisor here at Exit Realty Central in El Paso, Texas. Hey, so as you all know, you all recently did, those of you who have participated, you did the listing presentations. And, I've reviewed all the taped videos of y'all, so I'm going to give you some critiques and let you know my thoughts. Okay, so just before we move forward, I'm not going to reference anybody specifically. This is just going to be on a whole, just so you can get some little bit of some tips and some feedbacks and where to make some improvements. Okay, so one of the first things that I noticed, and I went into this when I was listening to the presentations live, when I was there with some of you that I was there. I didn't go through that listing presentation Buffini model, so I wanted to go in as a fresh mind, I guess you could say, to where I could have a mindset of an actual seller. Okay, if that makes sense. Okay, so because I didn't know what to expect, so that was the whole point. Okay? So the first thing is preparedness. Some of you had technical issues in getting your computer to work. Always have a backup plan in situations like that. Okay, so I even do it just in showing a house. Okay, so you always want to have that MLS sheet, the detail sheet that shows all the stuff about the house in case the buyer asks you stuff. Well, I don't rely on any kind of internet connection or all that. So I go before I get there. I'll look it up either on my tablet or the phone or even on the computer if I have it with me, and I screenshot it and I have it saved. So I just reference it right there and it's already saved to a picture folder. Okay, so for the presentation about exit and the Buffini stuff, you can have it either downloaded, have it on that presentation thing, the slideshow. There we go. Okay, so and it can be saved, directly to your laptop. So like that, you don't have to rely on anything else. One of them, it was all printed out, and that was pretty nice too. It's a hard copy, something that your buyer can have. And also, I understand you email it too. So I was told that those are emailed beforehand, and that's good too. Okay, so you can also put that on the seller. And the second, one of the most important things that I always look for in people that I deal with from a customer's perspective in the service industry is confidence. Okay? Confidence is a major issue, especially with me, and I know with a lot of other people. Okay, so you always got to remember that. I know it can be nerve-wracking. You're nervous. You're really hoping you get the listing. You're thinking all these thoughts are going through your head. What are they going to ask me? Are they going to even like me? And you have to put that kind of stuff aside. And I know it's easier said than done. Practice is what will get you there. But you need to be confident in what you're doing, how you're talking. I do this job. This is my job. You're licensed through the state. You're a member of the board of realtors. You have an education. You have a license to prove that you are competent in this job. And you've done your CMA. You're standing behind your work and talk in a confident voice. And be assertive. Be sure of yourself. Okay, don't second guess it, and don't be like, and issues like that makes them nervous. It'll put people a little bit nervous and like, well, do you really know, or do you even care? You see, so that I saw, with the majority, I should say. Okay, so a little bit, and I understand it's a practice run. It could be like, well, this is not real issue, but you need to practice on that. Okay, so that is a major thing, and that's pretty much how everybody would see it. When I first started doing inspections, for example, when I first started doing them, I was very nervous. I was still in the police department, and I didn't know too much about all this inspection stuff. But the main thing is I had that confidence already that was instilled in me as a cop. Okay, so you just talk. Hey, this. You're standing behind your work, and I know what I'm doing. Okay, and of course, if they have objections or things like that, you can work around it, but don't really try not to be stumbling. in what you're saying, okay? And second guessing yourself. For example, a big issue always is when you're showing them the CMA and you're showing them the price ranges. You say, this is the recommended price range that we can price it at to get your home sold quickly as possible. Okay? And the people are going to be like, well, that's a little too low. Or if they do come up with that and they say, well, can we price it higher, on the higher end of your spectrum there? And then a common answer that I was seeing is, well, yeah, we can try and we can see, hopefully it'll sell. And a better answer that I would like to hear is saying, well, yeah, absolutely, we can price it however you want to price it, but do keep in mind that this is the way the market is behaving right now. Okay, so by saying stuff like that is, I know this market, I know this city, I know the buyers, I know how they behave. So yes, we can market it higher, we can price it higher, but do keep in mind it will take a little longer to sell. Okay, and be sure of it. Okay, so a good way of practice, and what I would do a lot is you just say it to yourself. Whatever you're doing, if you're driving or you're just having your chilling time there by yourself, just kind of play it in your head how you're gonna say it, how you would talk, issues like that. That's how you build up your confidence more, and you'll start coming up with your own different kind of scenarios and things like that. Because these people, the sellers, you never know. Everybody has different kinds of attachments and views of their house, and they do their own research on Zillow or Realtor.com or just Google it, and they always come up with different kind of things. And right now that we're coming out of this high zombie apocalypse, big selling boom where all the houses were selling for way over asking price, okay, because the inventory was very limited, or there was just more buyers than there are sellers. Okay, so you're going to get some people that are going to say that. Okay, I experience that quite a bit. Okay, and I get that kind of feedback a lot. And you just tell them, the market is starting to normalize again. We're going, because that's what it's doing. Okay, it's not crashing the way some people say. It's just going back to normal. Okay, so if you haven't been around that long, that this is typically how it's going back to. Okay, so you just kind of explain that to them. Okay, it's going back to normal. The high bidding wars, unless you're marketing it way below recommended price, but that's the situation that we're heading into. Okay, and you can say all this kind of stuff, but if you say it surely, it's just like when you go to the doctor or you go to an auto mechanic. You take your car to the dealership and they tell you, hey, your struts are bad, your shocks, your ball joints, these need to be replaced. But if you have the mechanic just say, well, I think your car will drive a little better if we replace this, what would your reaction be? You see what I say? See what I mean there? Okay, especially if a doctor were to say, well, I think if we did this surgery, or I think if I recommended or prescribed you these pills, I think you'll feel better. Well, will I or won't I? You see, if I get, I'm going to prescribe you this and this is going to fix you. Or we need to replace the ball joints on your front steering and that will fix your alignment problems. Like that. Okay, you see, it's confidence. Okay, it's just, hey, this is what we do. I do this for a living. I know this job. Okay, if you don't know a clear answer, like for example, some people say, well, how long will my house take to sell? You can tell them, well, if we price it at accordingly, it'll sell quickly. Okay, I cannot tell you, and be straight up honest. You just say, I cannot tell you what the market is going to do. I can tell you how the market is behaving, but I cannot tell you exactly what it's going to do. I cannot tell you it's going to sell in 3.5 days. We'll get an offer at 3:30 in the afternoon on a Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon. Okay. Okay. So, but if you just say it like that confidently, they'll listen to you. Okay. They will. Okay. And another thing is upsell yourself on the whole realtor association thing. Okay. So when you always explain everything like they don't know, because they really don't, unless they're licensed agents themselves. Okay, so when you're talking about, we're members of GEPAR, nobody's going to know what GEPAR means. And GEPAR that acronym alone sounds weird. Okay, so you just tell them, we're members of the National Association of Realtors. Okay, and then we're held to a higher standard. It's a it's a board that gives us a lot of different kind of education. A lot higher standard than what a normal state licensing does. Of course, we're all licensed through the state, and on top of that, you're also members of this national board. Now, I think y'all did real good with the upselling of the office and your team, and we have a very wide network and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so and do say that your whole office and your team, and your management team and the corporation, they're all there to help you, and you have all these tools and blah blah blah. Okay, so y'all know that, because nobody's gonna expect you to know absolutely everything. Okay, I mean, I'm the same way. If you come across a situation, and you can even tell people that too. Say, what, if we run into a situation where I can't handle it, I do have my team, I have my office, I have my management crew that I can go to. We have our corporate crew. We will find solutions to any problems that we might come across, because I don't know absolutely everything. And then the benefit of that is, if they're interviewing other agents, especially if they're with smaller office or they're a one-horse brokerage, they can't say that kind of stuff. Okay, because they can't. Anybody that does a little research, they're going to see that. Okay, so don't be afraid of that. I do tell that to a lot of people. I do say, I don't know. I don't know, or if I do come into this situation and I don't know how to handle it myself, I will get the resource to solve this problem. And people appreciate that. They're like, oh, okay, hey, this guy, he knows what's up. Okay, so after you're done with your speech about yourself and up talking yourself and selling yourself, all that kind of good stuff. Okay, and then you're gonna go into the questions of the seller asking, well, how are they gonna access the house? Okay, so in this particular listing presentation, it was tenant occupied. Okay, and there was some stumbles on this. Okay, so all right, so one issue was, how are they going to get in there? And what am I going to tell my tenant? Okay, and my tenant are older people. They don't like being disturbed. Okay, and the common thing, the easiest answer is just like, okay, well, you know what? You tell me the scheduling that we can do, that your tenants will allow the people to go in. Okay, and I can set up the lockbox that's out there, and I have full control of this box. Okay, this goes hand in hand with knowing the technology that you're using, the equipment that you use. Okay, all the tools that you have, you should know how to use them efficiently and effectively. Okay, and that's with the lockbox too. Okay, you can control the settings on your lockboxes. Okay, so you can put specific times that they can open and specific times that they lock, and no one can open it except for you. You see? So that you explain that to the seller. Okay, I can put, if the tenants say, hey, you know what, please, I don't want any showings on Sundays. I don't want, they might say, well, if there's a box out there, the people might just come in whenever they want, and can say, no, I can control it. If you don't want anybody after 6, I can put a program on the box that it won't open during these times. And then you'll just list that on MLS so the agents know it and be firm about showing time scheduling. So you tell them stuff like that. Okay, I'll be firm with the showing instructions. We'll have specific instructions on how to do it. The lock boxes will be programmed accordingly to your instructions. Issues like that. Okay, there won't be anybody coming into the house unannounced like that. Okay, another issue was, well, the tenant can open the door and let the people in. And that does tend to happen. And that's on the lazy side. Okay. And that also will murder your deal. Okay. Any kind of potential sales. Because I've dealt with a lot of tenants over my long career, and tenants will not want the house to sell. So they will talk a bunch of crap about it. Okay. They're not going to make that showing easy. If they do go in, they're going to drop lines and saying, we're having these problems, or the landlord never took care of the house, the things like that, to try to scare them off. Okay, so you really don't want the tenants to be there. You don't want any kind of people to just go in there when your tenants are there. Okay, or when their tenants are there. Okay. So in that case, it's a difficult case when you have a tenant occupied listing. Okay? So you have to work hand in hand with the seller and coordinate accordingly with the tenant, which the seller will do that for you. It's their tenant. Okay. But do be a little cautious with that, but do give them specific options, instructions like that, and be sure of all that kind of stuff with the technology issues that you can regulate and control who comes and when the lockbox can be open. Now, on the personalizing or depersonalizing the property. Okay, so you see that word there. A lot of it was, well, on preparing the property. Okay, so when we went into that and I was listening to it, some presentations where, well, we need to take down all your personal pictures and we need to put basically all this stuff away, or we need to get rid of all this stuff. Okay, and you got to be a little more specific with it. I understand the instructions. I try to listen to it from a customer perspective and not a realtor perspective. Okay, so people are gonna be like, well, why? That's a picture of my mother up there. I gotta take her down. So you tell them we're not selling your home. We need to sell a house. Okay, so we need to depersonalize your home and turn it into a house. Okay, so you're selling a product, not a personal item. Okay, for example, and you can tell them, for example, if you go to, let's say, the Cadillac dealership and you're looking at a new, or a used, I should say, a used Cadillac Escalade or sedan or whatever it may be. Okay, very nice car. It looks very nice on the outside. And they get in it and they see, 5-year-old kid pictures and drawings and some crayons or things like that in the back seat, or they see a backpack in there. How are you going to feel right away? Well, this isn't my car. This car belongs to somebody. And all of a sudden you feel like you're invading somebody's space. You see, and that's what a lot of buyers, they get a little weirded out by that. Okay, so you want to sell a product, okay, not a personal item. Okay, so when you explain it like that to them, they'll be more understanding. Okay, I've heard some of the presentations said things about safety issues. We don't want to have your family out there for safety, and that's good. I understand all that. Okay, but the main thing is that depersonalize the home, turn it into a house, so it's a product. Okay, so now one of the most hardest parts of the presentations is the commission structure and the amount. There's where you get quite a bit of pushback on it, especially when you're going to the 6% or 7% even. Okay, when I was with Century 21, we were all pushed to do 7%. Okay, I know that was years ago, but there is still a lot of agents that do that. Okay, and so an issue with that is you need to explain to them the benefits of it and what's included in it. Okay, so when you're talking about what you're going to do for the listing, and you can remind them again because it's going to come up again when you're talking about the commission structure. Okay, so you say, we're going to have a professional photographer come in and do all the photos so they look very professionally done when they're advertised on our multiple listing service. Okay, so that's another thing. When I'm mentioning stuff to people, I don't use just the abbreviations like MLS. I say the full word. Multiple listing service. Not only does it make you sound smarter, it also sounds more, better. Okay, so for a cleaner word to use there. Okay, so when you're saying all that stuff and you say, all this is included in your pricing. Okay, all this initially will come out of my pocket. Okay, I do pay for the photography. I get all that done for you. I do the advertisement. We push it out on the social media. We push it out on the websites that are included in this service packet. Okay, so we get all the needed exposure for your property. And also remind them, the whole commission, we also have to split it with a buyer's agent if another agent does bring the buyer. So we do put that on the multiple listing service to offer them, generally it's half of the percentage. If you're doing a 7% listing, for example, let's say you can secure that, you can tell them, we're going to offer 4%. We're going to offer 3.5, which is a lot higher than average what a buyer's agent does. And essentially, that will attract more activity to your property, you see, with the other agents. Okay, so you can mention all that kind of stuff. All these services are included in it, and that's why we charge accordingly. Okay, I saw some presentations said this is why we charge so much because this is what we do. Okay, so basically, that's, don't say that. Don't say, this is why we charge so much. This is why we're so expensive. We do it this way. Okay, this is why we charge accordingly, because these are the services that we provide. Okay, so that is a more secure way to say that. Okay, so on one of the presentations, the price was being haggled on the commission, okay, from the seller side. Okay, the seller was saying, well, can you do, 4%? This other agent was going to do 4 or 5 or whatever it is. Okay, and the agent came back and said, okay, well, I could lower it, but which of these services do you want me to take out? Okay, so, and that was good. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's part of the whole Buffini thing, because I didn't go through that part. Okay, but that day it caught me off guard when I saw that. Okay, and it's good. It's a good response, and you could say, well, you know what? I mean, if we were to lower it, I would have to subtract some of these services. For example, one of our more expensive services is the professional photography, which can run several $100s, especially if we do any kind of videos or anything. But just the photography alone can be quite expensive. Okay, so, or any of the other stuff that you mentioned. Okay, and just say, this is not just all pocket money. Okay, this is funds that go towards preparing your home to sell it, for all the man hours that we put in and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you need to upsell your service and why you're worth that. Okay, we put in a lot of effort. We don't just stick it online and let it sit there and pray for the best like it's on Craigslist or something. Okay, so just explain it that way, and that was a good response on that part. Okay, so so it's just issues like that. Okay, people might try to haggle you. Well, this other agent said that they're going to do it for this price, and say, well, okay, I mean, I understand that, but they're probably not going to offer you all this kind of stuff, and they don't have all the resources behind them. We do have upfront expenses that we have to do, to put your property up there, which is from all the way from the sign to the MLS dues that we have to pay, all the way to the photography, any kind of staging, if you are going to do any kind of staging or issues like that, to the lockbox, and you can name all that stuff. These are all expenses that we have, and this is why we charge accordingly, so that we can continue to give you the best service possible, and we don't discount it that way, and lower the quality of our service. Okay, so the bottom line is you need to assure them, like I was saying, with your confidence. Okay, so to wrap it up, you tell them, if you do decide to list your property with me and my company, okay, you assure them that it's not just you, it's also your company, that you have your resources behind you, you have a vast team, a big network, and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so you tell them, I'll come in here with you, we'll properly prepare your house, we'll make any changes that we need to better market it and change it over from a personal home to a property, okay, to a product, okay, so that we can sell it fast, efficiently, and effectively. Alrighty, so that is about it really for this one. It was a good job overall. Okay, so of course everybody needs improvements, and you'll be improving every step that you do. Okay, every time you do these presentations, whether it's by practice or in real scenarios, real life, you're always going to be improving. Years later, even in my inspection job, or when I go do showings or I'm working deals, there's 14 years later, you're still going to be making adjustments. Hey, I think this will be better, or I saw better results when I did it this way. Okay, so don't be impatient. Don't beat yourself up for it. Don't ever think, I'm a failure at this. Why am I not getting the results that I want to be getting? It does take a little bit of time. Okay, and that's just normal. It's nothing to be embarrassed of. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It will come. Okay, but it does take practice with yourself. Okay, just play scenarios in your own mind as you're driving, or you're just sitting at home, or whatever the case may be. Always run little scenarios by yourself, in your own mind, or with friends, with your family, or however you want to do it. Okay, and learn the tricks of the trade. Learn the technology, study it more. Go on the resource center. Just read the articles, see what they have to offer. Read the MLS stuff. Okay, play with it. Look at the lockbox settings, all that kind of stuff. Because the more you know about your industry, and the more you know about all the, for example, finances and how the closings work, how negotiations, issues like that, how the market's behaving, all those statistics that you can give to people, that really makes you look a lot more knowledgeable in this field. Okay, so because they're going to look at you and say, wow, you have a lot of knowledge, you must have been doing this for a long time, even if you haven't. And they see, they're going to say, wow, you really do know a lot. And even if you've only been in the industry for 6 months, and they know that, but they know all the knowledge that you have, well, hey, somebody's training you right, or you are training yourself right. Okay, I'm always reading books. As some of you know, okay, when I first entered the police department, I was always reading law books and everything, because I wanted to know how to do my job effectively. Same thing in the inspection industry. I still do it to this day. Over a decade later, I'm always reading updates on codes and all that stuff. And in the real estate industry, I'm always staying up to date with the legal aspects and law books, all that kind of stuff, because that just makes you better at your job. Okay, so all the technology stuff, all that kind of stuff, just read it, tips on how to market property or how to stage it, all that kind of good stuff. Okay, and that will really help you, and it'll give you more confidence, because you'll know how to answer stuff. You can give tips to the people, and they will really appreciate it, because that most agents don't do that. Majority of them don't do that. Okay, they just rely on, hey, well, you want to buy this or not, and I know how to fill in the blanks on a contract. Okay, but you want to be well-rounded in everything that you do in this industry. Okay, and that'll really help you. Trust me, it really will. Okay, all right, so that is it. We are done with this one. Best of luck to you on your next presentation, and we'll see you on the next one.